Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Is Toni Winston, and she is the Freedom Travel Diva, and we're going to be talking about travel in a very interesting time in the world. So I'm excited for her expertise to be revealed here today. But first, let me tell you a little bit about Toni. Toni retired early from her position as a top performing benefit client transformation consultant. And she's now the successful owner of a very lucrative travel business. She is living the life of her dreams and is a top influencer in the travel industry. Toni is a travel expert who is tuned in, and she is a connector and the go-to person who people call to find out what's going on. Her expertise comes from more than her personal and business travels. So Toni has traveled both on a personal level and on a business level. So that gives her a little bit of insight on a few things. She has the unique ability to see and portray through a travel landscape, economic classes, different religions, contrasting beliefs, and situations that take you completely out of your comfort zone, i.e. adventure. That's how I read that. Yes. Her zone of genius is to serve and to help you better understand the world and its variety of cultures.
Yes.
Toni was featured as a contributing author in 2 books in 2020, Amazon bestseller, She, CEO, Let's Go, Remove the Excuse and Stand in Your Power, and Unselfish Women. And she was also a featured author in the Global Woman magazine in 2020, September 2020. And she's a weekly contributor for Travel Thursdays on Celebrate You, Women Embracing Wellness, which is a Facebook group. And she's very active in her church where she works in her community. And she's a graduate of Alabama A&M University, where she is a financial alumni supporter. So welcome, Toni.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You have such a wide and diverse background. I want you to tell me a little bit about Freedom Travel. Can you just kind of give me an overview about Freedom Travel?
I can, yes. I know you probably are wondering, why did I come up with the name of my business, Freedom Travel? Just take that word freedom and just think about what it invokes. When you say I'm free or I have the freedom to, that's why I named my business Freedom Travel. At the time, I was divorced about 3 years. Just had my head down working a little bit, kind of, not feeling real good about myself because, the marriage didn't work out and I was feeling it, like what if I could have done to make it better? And a friend of mine said, hey, don't you like to travel? And I said, I do. She said, well, come and attend this meeting with me and see, do you like it? 30 minutes inside the meeting, I knew I'd found my second niche. And then when I got home that night, she said, think about what do you want to call your business? And the first thing I thought of was, I'm free. I'm free. Not necessarily free from the bad marriage, but being a middle-aged woman who really didn't answer to anyone. I had a beautiful job that I was a consultant at, but I still felt like I was free. I didn't feel like I was tied down. I could do what I want. My parents live in a state over. I go see them fairly often, but I was on my own, basically free. And that's how I came up with that name. And it does invoke a lot of thought with my clients because the first thing they think of is, what does this mean? Am I going to get my trip for free? No, you're not going to get your trip for free. But you are going to get the very best service that I can provide because I am an adventurer and I am a free spirit. And I put that into every request that I get. So thank you so much for that question. That was a great question.
Well, it sounds travel. I also love travel. And when you think about travel, and like you said, when the word freedom, that's what people want. That's what many people, the whole reason why they travel, and they want to have that experience, that adventure of being free to see the world. And just like in your bio, when I was reading that and you're talking about how when you travel, it opens your eyes to all the people and to all the culture. I wanted to ask you a little bit more about you as you were becoming Toni Winston, Freedom Travel Diva. Tell me a little more about your early years and what really helped shape you and what is influencing you today as you have created this travel business.
Well, Tammy, I can remember my parents telling me when I was a kid to try to be the best you can be. Be the best you can be and never stop learning. Because if you think about it, we get older and we get a little bit slower. And we feel like we've arrived in some things we don't want to do anymore. But I get up every day with this thought. You've got to be the best you can be. Never stop learning. That shaped me. I mean, I read a lot and it's just not all travel. I read about a lot of different things because I want to be a more, what I call well-rounded person. Who wants to be around someone who talks about football all the time? Don't get me wrong. I'm a football chick. I love it, especially college football, because I'm from the South. Roll Tide and War Eagle and Go Dogs. Those are my favorite teams. But, you just have to look at your life and see exactly what you were influenced by. Both sides of my family were very, very strong in education, making sure that I understood that I was the champion of myself. And what that meant was I needed to be motivated enough and have the initiative to get up and do what I said I wanted to do. My father asked me when I was 12 years old, what do you want to do? Do you want to be a housewife like mom? Or do you want to go out and earn a living like I do and get a paycheck every Friday? I opted for option 2 because my dad worked very, very hard. My parents are still living. They're in their 80s. And I just cannot get away from that. What I call the homespun, lifestyle that they brought me up on. I understand how to save money. I understand how to stay, basically don't get too wild. Don't spend too much money. You got to hold on to a little bit of it. And I'm glad that they actually instilled that in me because who would have thought we would have been in the midst of of a pandemic right now? One that is so severe that it has affected everyone in the entire world. So that upbringing and having knowledge is key. You've gotta keep yourself up to par and know something about something. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Because it's going to shape you as the person.
Yes, because it makes perfect sense because your parents telling you, hey, you want to be the best that you can be. And then, of course, they instill those basic values of, like you said, earn money, save money, and all the different things. But I wanted to know, because you talked about the freedom, when you went to that meeting and where this travel business opportunity was presented, what was it that just inspired you, besides the freedom, to become a travel business owner?
the first thing that really made sense to me was that I could put forth effort and get paid and also build residual income that no one could take away from me. You get to a certain level and that residual income becomes like an insurance policy. So if something happens to me, my mother, my dad, my brother, and his 17-year-old daughter inherits my monthly residual income. It just keeps coming. And that was, I looked at that and I said, you're telling me that I can travel anywhere in the world and I can earn residual income. I get to a certain level and this can be basically, for lack of a better word, willed to my family if something happened to me. Oh yes, I'm in.
So it allows you to have your own business, that
Yes,
business, and you also can leave a legacy to your family.
my family.
Wow,
Yes.
that is really interesting. So I wanted to ask a little bit more about COVID-19 or the pandemic, and how has this affected the travel industry right now? And kind of like, okay, so here you are. What are you looking at? How has it affected everything?
Oh my goodness. Everything came to a screeching halt. I mean, I canceled every trip my clients had planned, even the ones that were planned for December. I canceled them, Tammy, because I felt like I did not want to send someone somewhere and we really didn't know exactly how deep we were going to be into this pandemic. I mean, I very good friends of mine, I've known them for 15 years. They were going to celebrate their 20th wedding anniversary in my most favorite place in the whole wide world, which is Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. And I was sending them to one of the resorts that I've always wanted to travel to. And the more I thought about it, the more I said, in good conscience, I just couldn't do it. I called her and I said, let me cancel it. We can reschedule this when the pandemic is over. But let me tell you something, what happened. Even in canceling all of my trips, as I mentioned, for 5 years now, because I've been with my company for 5 years, I am still getting a residual income every month. So honestly, I'm doing okay. The travel business is just pivoting. And I know that's a word that everybody uses, but everyone's readjusting around this. The company that I represent, the first from March to June sold 70 million in cruises, but they're future dated. They're 2021, 2022. And a lot of people who are not in the travel business don't understand that we do have the ability to what I call pre-sale. And we also have the ability to set up installment plans. So consumers don't have to worry about taking the space that they have on their credit card for an emergency and use that to pay for a trip. You can make a nominal down payment, and then we can sit down and talk about how long you want to pay for it. Because in most cases, with cruises, depending on the cruise line, you have to have your last payment made within 60, in some cases, 90, 60 to 30 days. With some of the resorts and some of our larger travel suppliers, you have to have your last payment made within 60 days. So I have to sit down with the client, find out what they need, and we make sure that they make the most of those installment plans so that they can get the best out of their trips. And that has been the best thing that could have happened to the travel industry, because we can pre-sale and we do have the ability to set up installments where applicable. And cruises and large resorts, we talked about Greece. I have suppliers who will allow us to set up installment plans for that. And there's nothing wrong with that, because you still have the ability to get what you want, prepay for it, and then go and enjoy yourself and still have that space on your card to maybe charge something that you really, really want from that trip, a nice souvenir. That's why I love what I do, because we have so many options. And even with COVID shutting down so many things, it really caused the travel industry to pivot and think of ways they can still help the average person travel, no matter where in the whole world.
I like that because of the fact that you're giving everybody hope too.
Yes.
You're looking forward saying, yeah, maybe you're not going to do your trip this year, or maybe not even, the beginning of 2021, but you could look ahead. And like you said, if you're able to pay for that in installments, you could actually go on a bigger, better trip because you have more time to put it together and to pay for it. And of course, you're the expert and you can help them to put together a fabulous trip. I wanted to ask you a little bit more. So would you say that your business has thrived more than survived during this time?
It has. It has opened up a window for me to talk to a lot more people who are interested in investing in themselves. Because the one thing that I do like about my business, I was able to invest in me. And what I mean by that is I looked in the mirror and I said, I've never owned a business before, so this is going to be a very big challenge, but I'm going to make the most out of this experience. And I have not looked back, Tammy. This has been probably by far one of the best decisions I've made in the last 20 years. Because who doesn't love to travel? I mean, I know there are people out there who don't because they don't want to be inconvenienced. But I love it. I get to the airport, I sit down, I anticipate my trip, I'm comfortable, I have everything I need because I've planned my trip myself. I have my checklist and I've done everything that I need to do to make sure I'm going to have a great time. And that is what I put into, what I do for my clients, my services I put together to make sure that my clients don't have anything to worry about. Now, we do have snafus, but it's not anything that, we can't fix. We've had people forget things, of course, and we had to book another flight for them. But I always talk to my clients. I make sure clients understand that I need you to get up and get going, especially if we agree that you need to be at the airport at 6 a.m.
Yeah, I've done a lot of those 5:30, 6 a.m. flights going from Florida out west. That seems to be the only way to do it, because then, you get out there when it's only like 10 or 11 in the morning. So you still have time to do things. I wanted to kind of switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about safety and traveling. So what would you say are the most important safety tips that you have for people who are traveling or are going to be traveling? Let's say they can travel right now, but let's say they're going to be traveling. What would be some good safety tips?
Well, the one thing that I want everyone to know is, first of all, before you go, you need to know. So if you don't have someone like me on speed dial and you're doing this on your own, the best thing for you to do is make sure you know what you can pack. Because we also know that the airline industry has not really dialed back their procedures of all the liquids we can have. So you need to make sure that you have some aerosol cans. And I do apologize. I should have brought some where I could show you some products that I use in the little small travel kits. But make sure that you understand exactly where you're going, know what you can take and what you can't take. And I can help with that. But also, if you're going outside the country, understand that other airports, other airlines have different procedures. Try to understand exactly what you need to know. I tell everyone that I always go to the dollar store and I buy one of those little $2 plastic ponchos. The rain poncho, it fits perfectly over an airline seat. Yes, ma'am. $2. You don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to buy these big old kits and things from Amazon unless you want to. But that $2 poncho fits very well over the seat if you want the extra protection. But I also tell my clients too to be very, very careful in buying a lot of extra stuff you don't need. Make sure you have the PPEs. I don't go anywhere without mine. I have masks, cloth masks that friends have made for me with a little cup on the inside so it doesn't fog up my glasses. But I also have what I call the disposable ones. And I keep extras because when you are traveling, you need to have your own stuff. You may not be able to get somewhere and purchase all these things. So it just takes a few minutes to sit down and just think about what you need and start collecting it. So you don't have last minute purchases 2 or 3 days before you get out of town. I generally like to talk to my clients if they're, going to book with me about 6 to 9 months in advance before they travel. I understand it may be an emergency situation, and I know how I can tell you what to get in an emergency situation. But if you have 6 to 9 months, you can start collecting different things that you need to help you save money. But also safety is the issue. I buy a lot of those, not the powder kind, but the disposable gloves that are kind of thick. They sell them at the dollar store, and they come like 10 in a package for medium-sized hands, and they have the large ones as well. I keep at least 2 sets of those rolled up in a Ziploc bag in my purse. I go nowhere without a PPE or gloves. So that's one of the things that I want my clients and travelers to know. But also, you've got to make sure that you understand that in these instances now, you may not get the catering that you want, that you're used to at the airport, because people are having to think about so many other different things now. Everybody is thinking about their safety, COVID, so everything's being wiped down as much as it can be wiped down. So just relax, enjoy yourself, but check with someone like me who has a running list, who's created a list, who can help. And just know that we're here to service you so that you can have a good time and not really be too concerned. Be concerned, but not let it ruin the trip where all you're thinking about is, am I going to be safe on this aircraft? Am I going to be safe when I get to my destination?
And I imagine that different airlines have different protocols.
Yes.
Or whatever they're doing also. So right now, domestically, I'd like maybe give me your take on how the safety of flying domestically and then ease into international travel. Right now, can you travel internationally? What is happening with that during the COVID pandemic times?
Well, we've had a few countries that refuse to let Americans come over for obvious reasons. I mean, our COVID numbers are like a runaway freight train. But we also do have some countries who I keep a running list because I check every week. Do you know that the State Department has a link that you can check to see, there's a rating for if you should go or not based on the COVID rating? It does. Yes, it does.
The terrorist alerts.
Yep. Just like the terrorist alerts. It's just like that for countries. Yes. So Mexico, certain parts of Mexico, you have those code reds, those code yellows. So if you're getting into the red zone, don't try to go there. And I'm, like I said, everyone is pivoting, Tammy. Everyone is pivoting. Travel is the number one industry in the world. Do you think we as human beings who need this break, we have been, I don't know about you, but the only time I go out now is the grocery store, gas, and over to Alabama to see about my parents. And I've gotten that down to a fine science, but I'm purchasing things here and just taking it to them, not even shopping when I get there, just to limit my exposure to other people. And people are they're tired. You love your home, but you don't love it this much because you can't get out. You're locked down and everybody's Zooming and, everybody just needs this release. So everybody's pivoting. Hotels, airlines, the State Department, even the State Department is helping us with this link I mentioned, where they're letting us know where we can and cannot go. And each one of our states actually have their own alerts on their state sites telling you, we've had these huge outbreaks out west. So I always tell everyone, check the state's website just to make sure it's going to be a safe place.
That makes sense.
Travel.
Here in Florida, there was an article just today saying because we're on what they call stage 3, meaning that pretty much everything's open. Yet, what concerns me is that they're not taking the simple precautions like the masks and things like that. And the grocery stores do, but I notice that a lot of people, I see photographs of people doing things around town and they're not social distancing and they're not wearing masks and they all have, whatever the reason is, in their mind. But then my daughter, who lives in Minnesota, lives in a little tiny town, and they had 4 cases in their private school where there were maybe only 20 kids in a classroom, and yet they had 4 cases of COVID. So that now, of course, their school is closed. But so in other words, what you're saying is when you're traveling, you have these ways to tell. You can go to state websites, you can go to different sites to find out, which is really good. So as a traveler, do we have any insight into when things may be loosening up or being less, I don't even know how to ask the question. Really.
Less restrictive?
Yeah, less restrictive. And kind of reminds me of 9/11. I remember I used to fly before 9/11, and then when 9/11 happened, all of a sudden they turned up the metal detectors and we had to take our shoes off. What types of things will be considered normal in traveling that maybe we weren't doing pre-pandemic?
To be honest, I don't see the mask or the gloves going away. I just don't. I don't. It's too easy for someone to sneeze. Just think about it. I was in the grocery store.
I sneeze.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm before, the last time I flew, and I remember sitting there and I'd be sneezing. I'd get my, Kleenex and I'd sneeze like 5 times because that's like every time I fly, I sneeze.
Right.
So,
right.
Can you imagine everybody freaking out because I'm like,
Yes. I sneezed in the grocery store about 2 weeks ago and I had a mask on. And I promise you, people were taking their carts and getting away from me. I was not offended. I was not. But we're just in different times. I don't think we're going to go back to what we call normal. We're going to have to assimilate and get acclimated to the new normal. And as I stated, I think we're going to keep the mask to a certain degree. I think we're going to keep the gloves to a certain degree. And I also think, because there's new technology out there, Tammy, where they're getting to the point now where they're going to be able to ask you, and they're doing it in some cases now, where you go and under the CDC guidelines, you go and you have a test. Like say, for instance, if you wanted to go to Jamaica, Jamaica has it on their One Love website that you cannot travel there without taking a test at a CDC. I'm sorry, for the lack of the better word, a facility that the CDC recommends, and have your tests done within 12 days before traveling to Jamaica. When you get to the airport, when you touch down either in Kingston or in Montego Bay, you've got to have that documentation that says that you are COVID free, and they are going to take your temp. And I always tell my clients, just if you have a temp, they may not let you out of the airport. They may force you to go back home, and you need to have that consideration in the back of your mind. You may have to buy a ticket to come back home. And there's nothing no one can do about that, because everyone, and when I say everyone, every country is going to be vigilant to make sure that they don't let 20 people come through customs with a fever. They could be asymptomatic, and it turns into a wildfire at a resort. They're just not going to do it. So there's a lot of technology out there that's being tested. I just read about a test not long ago between DC, Washington, DC, and I think it was Dubai, because Dubai was one of those countries that shut every border down. They wouldn't let anybody in during the very beginning of COVID. I have a friend who is actually working in Saudi Arabia, and she can't come home because they shut their borders down. Even though she's an expatriate, they shut their borders down, and they said, when things get better in the United States, you guys can go home and come back. But right now they're not. So, and you really can't blame them, because we don't want what happened when it first started, where in Paris, 750 people were dying per day. Look at what's happening with the United States right now, where we're up in the 200,000. I cannot imagine, and I couldn't have imagined this in March, that now in November, we have over 200,000 people in the United States dead from COVID. So it's very, very sensitive, but what I say, people are thinking outside of the box, and they're helping the industry. It is a beautiful thing. I mean, I can't read enough articles of different things that are going on, different types of insurances that are being sold, that if you get out of the country and they take your temp, you were fine when you left the United States, and a couple of days in, you get sick and you need to be transported. There is a service that only costs $999 that'll fly you completely all the way back with medical care tied to it. It's expensive, but you have it. I mean, I have horror stories of friends and friends of friends who went out of the country in February, the latter part of February, and tried to come back in March and got stuck in foreign countries. And if it had not been for their friends and family to send money to continue to pay for a hotel stay and eventually get a flight out that was expensive, it would probably still be there and bankrupt. So there are things that are going on in our industry that is helping with everything. People are thinking outside of the box, and they're just making sure that people remain safe so that they can come and travel and still do those adventurous things that they like to do.
Wow, it's interesting, because I'm thinking about travel as we know it may not be exactly the same, but again, safety measures need to be in place so that we can come and go like we were. So you have the air travel, you have hotels, you have cruises. So what what are some of the things that they are doing, say at hotels? For example, I was thinking about, I live in Florida and sometimes it's like, gee, how cool would it be just to go to a hotel and get away
Yes.
for a couple of days? But then I'm going, well, I don't know what they're doing to make sure that the rooms are better than they used to be, So what is happening in all of those arenas?
Thank you for asking. I just read an article. As I mentioned earlier, Cabo San Lucas is one of my favorite places in the world. And I was looking at one of the resorts where they're priding themselves and their domestic staff on how they clean. They're using a lot of steam. They're washing the sheets, all of the bedding in hot water, making sure things are nice, fresh, and clean. But they're also, the hard surfaces are being steam cleaned. And then, of course, they're spraying with a substance. I think I mentioned to you earlier, I just didn't give the brand name, but there is a product that I like. It's called Microban, and it's hard to find because everybody's buying it. But you spray it on a hard surface, and it protects, just like Lysol, for 24 hours against COVID. So a lot of hotels are investing in that type of cleaning methods of cleaning where you are reassured. They're cleaning the carpet more in these hotels. You have to. There's no way around it anymore now. Making sure the surfaces, the hard surfaces, when you're putting your hands, the doorknobs, the toilet, the bathroom, all of that is being steamed and cleaned and then sprayed. And then they're letting you know exactly what they're doing because people are going to be curious. If you don't want to use my services and you pick up the phone and you call the local Marriott, like you said, and you want to check in, the first thing you're going to ask is, what are you guys doing to prevent a COVID outbreak? Someone should be able to tell you exactly what they're doing. And they should have notifications where you can see that this room has been cleaned to the standard of blah, 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 blah. Because those standards are now higher, much higher, much higher.
That's actually comforting to know. And I think that what you're saying is really important, that people put that on their things to do list, when, if they're not using a service like yours, if they are just making the reservations themselves, to ask these questions. Yes. So that they have that assurance. I just had a flashback to when I was a little girl. My mom carried Lysol in her purse, and we traveled from Oregon to Minnesota on a bus. And I remember my mom and her can of Lysol, every bathroom we went to, that can of Lysol came out and everything. But I think I've seen that Microban advertised on television because they show the image of the germs and yes. You can see that the germs are a lot less than with it. And then, of course, with a lot of lockdowns happening right now, again, I don't know about where you're at in the Atlanta area, but here, when I went to the grocery store, we have Publix, and that aisle with the toilet paper and the tissues and the paper towels, there was maybe only 5 packs of toilet paper left. And I grabbed one because I actually needed some, but I'm like, oh, great. It's starting again. And then they had bleach on sale. So I bought some of that, because it's like you become more aware of, gee, I might not need this right now, but I better at least get some, just in case. And then I noticed personally, even though I don't have a lot of people coming in and out of my house, I do a lot more cleaning with bleach, and I wash my hands a lot, way more than I ever washed them before. And again, it's just me and my dogs and cats, but I think it's just a psychological thing that you just go, okay, well, just in case, I'm going to, be as clean and sanitary as possible. But I think that's really good to know that the levels of, and I'm sure that will be carried through too, because it's good to be cleaner than not, because especially in hotels and cruise ships. I know I went on a cruise a couple years ago and I noticed that every time we go into the dining room, they actually had people, and this was pre-pandemic, they had the hand sanitation stations with the liquid, but then they also had where you could wash your hands, and they actually had people watching you, telling you, wash your hands.
Yes.
You went into the food area. So I imagine that would be probably even stricter now.
Yes.
Than it even was then. So besides flying, it seems like when we think about travel, we think a lot about flying or cruises, just because, flying is the fastest way, and cruises. What other types of travel should we be looking at? And maybe traveling maybe to places that are more, easier to get to than flying. Of course, we all want to go to, we talked about Greece earlier, and I'm thinking, wow, wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't it be cool to go to Africa or to the Holy Land?
Yes.
I'm all over. But then I also think, well, gee, if you live in the United States, there's a lot of cool places in the United States. I happened to go just the other day. I live near Warm Mineral Springs, and I went there for half a day and pretended I was on because it was just like, just go and enjoy, natural warm mineral springs. And it's 12 miles from my house, yet it's 1,000,000 miles away, because I let myself just be for half a day. And that was interesting. So what do you think, put in your, I guess your magic freedom travel ball, what do you see in terms of travel that's going to become popular?
Believe it or not, with domestic travel, there is an upsurge of families renting RVs and going to state parks. Believe it or not, RVs are becoming very economical for an average family of 4. You don't have to get one of these huge monsters. You can get the pop-up, or you can get the one that looks like a house on the inside. They have the bunk beds, nice shower, kitchen where mom and dad can prepare food. And the cost to get inside of a state park is not that expensive. It's not. It's very nominal.
And I think you can get like an annual pass or something.
You can. You sure can.
If you're over 65 or 55, they have a special.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. But if you're just kind of trying to keep your little family together, and you want to spend time together, renting the RV, actually driving in the car. A lot of people are saying, the average family, if they don't already own a large SUV, they're renting those and driving. I've noticed that here in Georgia, there are 11 waterfalls. That's where Toni's going to go very soon. Oh. Like you took your half a day trip to Warm Springs. Uh-huh. There is a waterfall less than 15 miles from my house. I saw pictures online. I don't even have to put on a mask unless I see another person because it is an open area, but it's on the state of Georgia's one of the most beautiful sights to see here in Georgia. And I did read that if you do encounter someone, make sure you do have your mask on you, but it's beautiful. There are so many little treasures that travelers can find in their own state that doesn't cost that much money, but it gets us out of being locked down.
Right.
And being outside and free.
It's interesting that you talked about RVs, because I was interviewing someone else today, and one of their things is they're going to get an RV and start traveling around the United States. But I know I've actually been looking at RVs, and since COVID hit, RV sales have gone up, and more, they're actually to buy them. Used RVs, it's harder to find a good used RV now, but that is interesting. But we all do live in beautiful places that often we do ignore, or even I actually live on 7 acres, and I have been walking outside more, just walking around the yard just to get that grounding, that earth grounding. So I think that's really a really good idea. So you mentioned that you could plan some of these trips and put them on payment plans and things like that. So other than that, what are some other ways that travelers can save money when they're traveling? Maybe you have some little insider tips.
There are so many ways that you can save money, but we have to look at the person, the traveler. There are some people who they don't want to glamp. You know what glamping is, right?
Right. Yes.
It's the what I call the glamorous camping. There are some people who just don't want to do that. And you can do that anywhere in the world. You can fly anywhere in the world and glamp. Anywhere, even in London. I found a spot right outside of London where they let people come and glamp. I love it. I think it's the cutest thing, because if you like sleeping outside in a tent, you can do that. But I'm not that girl. I'm not that girl. But also, there are hostels all over Europe, and the concept is kind of sort of coming on here in the United States. A lot of the Airbnbs had to shut down because of COVID. Okay. But if you look at it, a lot of people are renting out rooms out of their homes on, I forgot some of these publications, online publications, where people rent rooms out of their homes for vacationers.
Like Craigslist.
Things of that nature. Say it one more time.
Craigslist is.
Yes. Craigslist. Yes. And those things still, you can still do that. But me, from a safety measure, I would say save your money. And if you like staying in a nice hotel, everyone has their own brand of what they want to do. Like, I'm a Marriott lady. I love Marriott. I just love the brand. There's just so many things that Marriott has done over in the last 20, 30 years that has taken staying at a nice hotel to a whole new level. But also, too, I look at that average, what I call the average traveler. They want to go. They may take a couple of steps down with the hotel and may get not so much as a brand hotel, but they may get a hotel that may be somewhat of a boutique, meaning that they have a lot of those in Paris that are around the Eiffel Tower, where you can get a no-name hotel that has been there for years. They've refurbished it, but the prices are very, very good. And they have ways for 5 girlfriends who want to take that girlfriend trip where they have 2 bedrooms with double beds in them. And then they have the king size sofa with a huge sofa bed in it. So there's just so many different ways you can do that. You just have to take your time, think it through, understand that you start with your budget. What do you really want to spend? And then we try our very best to stick to your budget. Now, we also make sure that our clients understand that traveling is a beautiful thing, but we've got to make sure that you have travel insurance. We cannot let you go without travel insurance. Anything can happen. I've had someone break a leg 2 days before traveling and they couldn't fly. Broken leg. No traveler's insurance. Trip gone down the drain. So we're going to, the industry has opened up so much, as I stated earlier, where we're pivoting and we're thinking outside the box, and so many different avenues and things are opening up to help people like me, who's an owner/agent, to help our clients
I think
have the best adventure that they can have in this whole wide world.
I think that's really important that a lot of people don't realize, and then like I'm thinking to myself, okay, I want to travel, but I don't know that, I might have my heart set, I'm going to go to Paris and do this, but I don't know that I would automatically in my mind go, I better get traveler's insurance, or what is the value? I know sometimes on airplane tickets, it might say, do you want traveler's insurance for that flight? But then I know that there's other travel insurance that you can get that maybe it covers you for all the traveling you do over the course of a year. It's not individual things. Because I bought that when I went on a trip to Alaska, because I invested a lot of money into that. It would have been a great loss if something had happened and I wasn't able to do all the things, because I paid a lot of things in advance for that trip. And that was a great trip. It was last summer, so thank goodness.
Oh, wonderful.
And I went with a very small group of people. That is another question. So when you work with people, do you work with just individuals, or can it be groups? What does it look like to work with you? Depending on, if it's just me and I wanted to go, maybe I want to go solo, or maybe could I be part of a group, or how does it work to work? How does it work to work with you?
Well, you just tell me what you like. I've done family reunions on cruises. I've done family reunions at hotels and out in Los Angeles, California. But I like to try to suggest to my clients, if you've done a family reunion at a hotel, try a cruise. And right now, I would love to try to book someone on a steamship right here in the good old United States, because guess what's going up? When you asked me earlier, I just thought about it. Steamboat Travel is up as well. Where
travel.
Yes, the Steamboat Travel, because it's a ship. Okay. And it's limited cabins. But if you don't want to get on a big ship and fear what happened during COVID, they've put some parameters in place, some guidelines in place that makes it safe. I mean, you have a steamship. I think it's one in Chattanooga. It's not very far from Atlanta. I think it's Nashville. That goes up and down the Tennessee River. Then, of course, you have the ones that are in the Midwest that are huge, and the prices are not bad at all. For 5 days, not bad at all. You can fly in, take an Uber, or a chauffeur limousine, or, just a private car, and get dropped off, and they'll come back and pick you up. And just to add to that, the car rental companies, basically went belly up during, at the beginning of COVID. But a lot of enterprising people were smart. Well, they went and bought a lot of those cars, and they've become drivers, and they are, advertising themselves as what they've done to make sure that their cars are clean to transport people between the airport and their resort or hotels. That's another service that's been added in. You always had those transports, but now people are saying, okay, this is what we do to make sure that we've taken care of, multiple people being in a vehicle and not coming down with COVID. I like that as well.
Wow.
As well.
So also one of the things is, because I can tell just from talking to you, that I imagine that if someone says to you, I'd like to travel, but I have no idea where I want to go, then you have a conversation with them to find out like what type of trip taker they are or traveler they are. And you can help make some suggestions about where they might go based on their budget, right?
Correct. And I have a questionnaire as well. I created a questionnaire because, like you said, there are solo travelers, there are couples, there are girlfriend, guy trips, and then there's the big family situation, like a family reunion. I mean, we service them all. Come one, come all. I mean, even your groups like your fraternities, your churches, your sororities, all of that, we can help. And we enjoy doing that. Because when people tell me, hey, I want to go somewhere for a few days, you got any ideas? These private villas now, Tammy, they are going like hotcakes. And in Florida, there are some beautiful private villas that can, you can go as a couple, 2 or 3 people, to maybe 30, 40 people. And they're on the water. Yeah. And the prices are not bad.
That would be nice to be able to do this even during a time of COVID, to have a place to go where that it's safe and clean and everything. So if I wanted to get a hold of you, or if anyone wants to contact you, what's the best way to do that?
Oh my goodness. I have several ways. Of course, you can call me. My business line is 678-235-8498. 678-235-8498. I do have a website, www.freedomtraveldiva.com. I'm on Facebook as the Freedom Travel Diva, and I'm also on Instagram as the Freedom Travel Diva, and on Twitter as well.
Okay.
And of course, you can email me at freedomtraveldiva@gmail.com.
Okay, that makes it easy. So
yes,
all you have to know is Freedom Travel Diva. And I did check out your website, and everyone, she does have a really nice comprehensive questionnaire that you can fill out, so that you could fill that out and make contact and get some, really good advice going. Because I think it's funny. This is something very few people know about me. Way, way, way back in the day, they used to have a travel agent class at community college. I enrolled in that class because that was one of my, I wanted to, do this. This would have been in the late 70s, early 80s. And I'll never forget, because back then, part of the class was that you would have to memorize all of the alphabet, like Tampa, TPA, and SRQ would be Sarasota, all of those things. And
airport codes.
Yeah, the airport codes.
Airport codes.
myself, my goodness, can you imagine how helping somebody travel back then, you had to have a travel agent back then because we didn't have the access to everything like we do now. But anyway, I lasted in that class maybe two classes before I determined that no, I didn't have the capacity to do that. But I booked myself on many, trips and everything. But it's still very fascinating to me about just the world in general. And again, when you talk about the world and the cultures around the world, and I didn't, just like I learned something when you said, oh yeah, you can go to London and go glamping, out there. I mean,
you can.
There's so many things that are available.
Yes.
And I have stayed at a hostel. And the funny part about that is because they're typically called youth hostels.
Yes,
well,
they are.
Because of that name, I thought I couldn't stay at them because I was too old. But I thought it doesn't have anything to do with age.
It doesn't.
I actually stayed in one in San Diego. Mm-hmm. It was like $23 a night. And of course, I slept in a bunk bed. But the people who were there were pretty interesting people. And then, of course, they had like this community kitchen and they provided like bread and jam, real basic food.
Right.
You could at least, have some toast and jam and coffee before you went out in the day. But that was my experience at a hostel. And I actually thought to myself, wow, if I was ever wanting to travel on a budget, that could be the way to do it. And let's say I wanted to travel with my sons who are, in their 30s, early 30s now, that would be kind of a fun thing, that we could do. We haven't done it, but you could literally, on, like you said, any budget, would come up with a pretty nice trip and to do that. So again, it's freedomtraveldiva.com and you can find out all about Toni. So Toni, before I let you go, is there anything that you'd like to add?
I do. I just want every person out there that I encounter to know the importance of leveraging how you stand financially. And I'm just going back a little bit to that freedom. Mm-hmm. Because now, I'm looking at myself and I'm thinking, Freedom Travel Diva is great for the travel part. But now I'm looking at what's happened. Where a lot of people were not prepared for the pandemic. They just weren't. A lot of people were lacking in their savings, and some people are just leaning their little piggy banks over because they've hit the savings pretty hard, and they don't know how they're going to make up that ground. So now I'm looking at Freedom Ambassador for myself, because I feel that even with travel as my industry, there are still things that I can share with the average person to help them to become free. Finances, a lot of people run away from discussing finances. Finances basically can ruin a marriage. One of the things that causes divorces in the United States, or period, is finances. Well, we want people to know that you cannot just dig a hole, put your head in it, and not face what's going to happen. We've got a plan. And the thing that I like telling people about is that I assist people in supplemental or primary income source by selling travel stores internationally. It's just like having a McDonald's franchise. If not this, then what are you going to have for yourself as your plan A or your plan B? We know that industry and different jobs here in the United States were forced to send people home, whether they could do their job via Zoom or not. And a lot of people are still lagging behind because of that. But I want people to start thinking about, how can I make myself free? As an individual, just think about it, because we just cannot go back to that, forcing ourselves to just start all over again and just taking that hard hit like we did in 2008 when we had the economy just tanked, especially in the real estate market. We had a lot of people lose everything, lose homes. We don't want that to happen. And I want people to just look at different avenues. If you want to hear a little bit more about what I do, I'll be happy to discuss it with you. There's no pressure, but I just want individuals to know that there is something out there that could fit you, that can help you have a plan B for you and your family. And nobody has to take it on the chin and lose everything and be behind the 8 ball for the rest of your life and keep passing that same thing down through generations of, not thinking outside the box. That's what I want people to know. There are options out there, and there are great resources for many to prevent the huge rise in the unemployment that we see, not only in the United States, but across the world. But I want people to know that there are sources and resources out there. The one that I took advantage of that helped me 5 years ago, still earn a residual income for 5 years, even in this pandemic. Now, am I saying that there are things out there that are not pandemic proof? No, ma'am, I am not. I do think that myself and my company has been extremely, extremely lucky, but that business model stands true. And if you have a good business model and people understand what they need to do to make this thing work for themselves, then do it. Then do it. That's what I want to leave with everyone. Now, I'm out there with my banner. I'm going to be the Freedom Ambassador as well as the Freedom Travel Diva.
Okay, that sounds good to me. So everyone, make sure that you reach out to Toni so that not only can she talk to you about freedom travel, but she can also talk to you about freedom and creating that income and that legacy that you might be looking at, especially during these times. Like you said it several times, everybody right now is looking at the pivot. And again, it's a cliche at this point in time, but it's absolutely true. We need to look at how are we going to move forward. And for some people like you, Toni, I'm thinking, if you're somebody who likes to travel and you have this love and you're also thinking about how do I earn a living, why not look into something that's being presented to you right this split second? You're listening to this and you're saying, wow, that's kind of interesting. Why not ask and find out more?
Yes.
That's what I would do. So with that, everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.